My name is Eleanor Hayes, and on the evening of my 74th birthday, I sat at the head of a table that wasn't mine, in a house that felt more like a museum than a home, and learned that the life I'd accepted as modest was actually stolen. It started with my sister Clara. Clara had always been the bright one, the one who left our small hometown at 19 with a scholarship, built a career in corporate law, married a kind man who died too soon, and never had children because she said the world was already crowded enough with regrets. She lived in Boston now, in a brownstone filled with books and art she actually understood. We spoke every few weeks, mostly about the weather or her latest case, never about money or pain. She knew I hated talking about either. She flew in unannounced that Friday. Reggie, my only son, had insisted on hosting my birthday dinner at his place in the suburbs. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a kitchen bigger than my entire apartment. "Mom, you deserve to be spoiled for once," he'd said on the phone, his voice too warm, too eager. I didn't argue. At 74, you stop arguing with invitations, even suspicious ones. The table was set like a magazine spread. White linen, silver candelabras, crystal glasses that caught the chandelier light like trapped stars. Reggie's wife, Lauren, wore a silk dress the color of expensive wine. My 2 grandchildren, Ethan, 14, and Mia, 12, had been allowed downstairs for the family photo, but vanished upstairs as soon as the appetizers appeared. I sat between Clara and an empty chair, wearing the same navy cardigan I'd worn for 3 winters because it still fit and still looked respectable. Clara arrived late, carrying a small velvet box and a bottle of Bordeaux I knew cost more than my monthly rent. She hugged me so tightly I smelled her perfume, something sharp and French, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Ellie. I've missed you more than you know." Dinner began politely. Reggie talked about his promotion at the investment firm. Lauren described the new landscaping. I nodded, smiled, asked about the children's school. The food was beautiful but tasted like cardboard. My stomach was too knotted to enjoy it. Then Clara leaned forward, poured herself another glass of wine, and looked straight at me. "Ellie," she said, her voice calm but carrying the way it always did in courtrooms, "tell me something. Are you enjoying the trust fund Jeremiah left you?" The fork in my hand froze halfway to my mouth. The room went quiet except for the low hum of the air conditioning. "Trust fund." I repeated, the words foreign, almost silly. Clara's eyes narrowed. She didn't look surprised. She looked furious in that contained way she had, lips pressed thin, jaw set. "The one Jeremiah set up before he died. $520,000. Irrevocable. Monthly disbursements to you for life, with a lump sum at 75 if you chose. I witnessed the signing. I have the original codicil in my safe deposit box." My heart slammed against my ribs. Jeremiah. My husband of 42 years. Quiet, steady Jeremiah who balanced checkbooks and never raised his voice. Dead 6 years now from a stroke that took him in his sleep. He'd handled everything: bills, taxes, insurance. I signed where he pointed. I trusted him the way flowers trust the sun. I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered. Reggie's wine glass hit the table with a dull clink. Lauren's face drained of color. She looked like someone had pulled the plug on her carefully applied makeup. Clara turned to them, slow, deliberate. "So," she said, "what did you do with Ellie's money?" Silence. Not the polite kind. The kind that has weight, that presses down on your chest until breathing hurts. Reggie tried to laugh. Came out like a cough. "Aunt Clara, come on. There's been some kind of mix-up. Dad never mentioned." "He didn't have to mention it to me," Clara cut in. "I was there. October 12th, 8 years ago. Jeremiah's office downtown. I watched him sign. I watched the notary stamp. And I watched you, Reggie, standing in the hallway pretending to read your phone while your father made sure your mother would never want for anything again." Lauren stood abruptly. I need some air." She fled toward the patio doors. Reggie stayed seated, fingers gripping the edge of the table so hard his knuckles whitened. "Mom," he started, voice cracking like a teenager caught stealing. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," I said. My own voice surprised me, steady, cold. For the first time in decades I wasn't shrinking. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Dad." He wanted to help me get started. The business loans were killing me. The house, the kids' school. Everything was so expensive. He said it was temporary. Just a bridge. I'd pay it back when things stabilized. $500,000? Clara asked, voice like ice cracking. As a bridge. Reggie flinched. It wasn't all at once. It was installments. For investments. For the kids' futures. My future, I said quietly. He couldn't meet my eyes. I looked down at my plate. Untouched salmon, wilted asparagus, a smear of sauce like blood. 6 years of counting quarters for bread. 6 years of declining invitations because the bus fare was too much. 6 years of thanking Reggie for the $100 he handed me every Christmas like it was generosity instead of conscience money. And all that time Jeremiah had left me secure. Safe. Loved even after death. I felt the tears come then, not soft, not hidden. Hot, angry rivers that blurred the candles. Clara reached over and took my hand. Her palm was warm, steady. I didn't know, I said to her. I swear I didn't know. I know, she whispered. That's why I'm here. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Martin Riley, Jeremiah's estate attorney. He's retired, but he still answers for me. He'll have digital copies, timestamps, everything. We're ending this tonight. Reggie stood so fast his chair scraped backward. Aunt Clara, please. Don't do this. Not on her birthday. Clara didn't even glance at him. You chose the date, Reggie. You chose the house. You chose the lie. Don't lecture me about timing. I sat there numb as the conversation swirled around me. Reggie pleading. Clara unrelenting. Lauren slipping back in, eyes red, saying nothing. When Martin arrived 40 minutes later, gray-haired, gentle, carrying a leather portfolio, he didn't waste words. He spread documents across the table like evidence in a trial. The trust was real. Irrevocable. Beneficiary Eleanor M. Hayes. Trustee at inception Jeremiah T. Hayes. Successor trustee upon death Reginald J. Hayes. And there, in black and white, the transfers. Starting 3 months after Jeremiah's funeral. $50,000 to Reggie's business account. $120,000 to mortgage payoff. $80,000 to education fund. For Ethan and Mia. The rest in pieces: cars, vacations, home theater system, private tennis lessons. I stared at the signatures. Reggie's signature. Over and over. You forged access, Martin said quietly. As successor trustee, you had fiduciary duty. You breached it. Repeatedly. Reggie collapsed back into his chair. I was going to fix it. When the market turned. When the kids were through college. I swear, Mom. Don't, I said. The word came out sharp. Final. For 74 years I'd swallowed every excuse. Every later. Every we're trying. Every time he canceled a visit because things are hectic. Every holiday when Lauren's family took priority. Every time I told myself a mother shouldn't expect more. I was done swallowing. Clara looked at me. What do you want to do, Ellie? I looked at my son. The boy I'd carried, nursed, taught to walk, to read, to dream. The man who'd taken my security and turned it into his luxury. I want it back, I said. All of it. With interest. And I want him to feel what it's like to count every dollar. Reggie started crying then, big ugly sobs. Lauren stared at the floor. The grandchildren peeked from the staircase, eyes wide, sensing something broken beyond repair. Martin cleared his throat. We can file for removal of trustee tomorrow. Surcharge action for breach. Possibly criminal if the amounts and intent qualify. But Eleanor, it's your call. I looked around the room. The chandelier. The art on the walls. The life built on my silence. I want justice, I said. Not revenge. Justice. Clara nodded once. That night I didn't stay in the guest room Reggie had prepared. Clara drove me back to my one-bedroom apartment. The place with the flickering kitchen light and the radiator that hissed like an old cat. She slept on my pull-out couch, the way she had when we were girls sharing a room after our father died. The next morning, she made coffee in my chipped mugs and said, "You're not going back to Invisible, Ellie. Not ever again." Took 8 months. The lawsuit was ugly. Reggie fought at first, hired expensive lawyers, claimed misunderstandings, verbal agreements with his father. But the paper trail was damning. Bank records, emails, even text messages where Lauren joked about Mom's little nest egg finally hatching. In the end, the court removed him as trustee. Ordered restitution. $520,000 principal plus compound interest at statutory rate, legal fees and punitive damages for breach of fiduciary duty. Total. Just over $840,000. Reggie declared bankruptcy 2 months later. The house went into foreclosure. Lauren filed for divorce. The children, my grandchildren, were caught in the middle, confused and angry. I didn't see them for a long time. But I didn't lose everything. Clara helped me invest the money conservatively. A small house in a quiet neighborhood. Enough to live comfortably, travel a little, help my neighbor Mrs. Patel with her medical bills. I started a small scholarship fund at the local community college in Jeremiah's name. For single mothers going back to school. I saw Reggie once more, a year after the judgment. He came to my new front porch, thinner eyes hollow. "Mom," he said. "I'm sorry." I looked at him for a long moment. The boy I'd raised, the man who'd betrayed me. "I know," I said. "But sorry doesn't rebuild what you broke." I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently. And then I went inside, made tea, and sat by the window watching the leaves fall. Something I hadn't had time to do in decades because I'd been too busy surviving. Sometimes I still wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, remembering the moment Clara said those words across the table. But mostly I sleep through the night. Because for the first time in my life, I am no longer waiting for someone else to decide I deserve better. I decided it myself.